Chapter 1: The Arrival. Amir stepped off the plane from Pakistan into the biting cold of a late November evening in Toronto. His breath misted in the air, and his thin jacket did little to shield him from the wind. Back home, winter never came like this. He clutched his backpack tightly and followed the signs through Pearson International Airport, his heart a blend of excitement and fear. Across the city, May from China had arrived 2 weeks earlier. She was already discovering the limits of her English vocabulary. Every sentence felt like a hurdle, every classroom presentation like a mountain. But she was determined, not just for herself, but for her parents who had poured their savings into her education. And then there was Daniel from Nigeria, who had been in Canada for 6 months. He was the most settled of the three but still carried the weight of homesickness and isolation. He missed the music, the food, the language of his people. He worked night shifts at a grocery store and attended classes during the day, barely scraping by. Chapter 2: A Shared Table. Fate brought them together at the campus International Student Center, one of the few places that offered free coffee, a microwave, and a quiet space to study. Amir sat awkwardly at the corner table, trying to decipher his assignment. May, curious and kind, offered help after recognizing the confused look on his face. Daniel, seeing their conversation, joined in with a smile and a hot cup of Tim Hortons coffee. That small meeting turned into a ritual. Every Wednesday afternoon, they met, sharing food, venting about professors who spoke too fast, and navigating bureaucracy that made little sense, study permits, work hours, co-op rules, and the ever-looming threat of visa expiration. Chapter 3: Strangers in a Strange Land. Life wasn't easy. Amir struggled with loneliness and the unrelenting pressure to succeed. His family video called him every week, expecting glowing progress. What they didn't see was him eating instant noodles for the 5th time that week or walking miles to save on transit fare. May battled anxiety in silence. She worried about her accent, about not fitting in, about the subtle ways people excluded her. A group project where her ideas were brushed aside, or the way people laughed at her mispronunciations, these left invisible scars. Daniel faced racism head-on. A customer at the store muttered something under his breath about immigrants taking jobs. One professor constantly assumed he was late with assignments, even when he wasn't. Still, he smiled through it all, not because it didn't hurt, but because he refused to let it break him. Chapter 4: Falling and Flying. During exam season, tensions rose. Amir failed a midterm and questioned everything. He called his father crying, expecting disappointment. Instead, he heard words of comfort and pride. It was the first time Amir let himself believe that failure didn't define him. May nearly dropped out after a panic attack before a presentation. She told Daniel and Amir the next day. They didn't let her hide. They practiced with her, over and over, until she stood confidently in front of the class and delivered her talk flawlessly. Daniel got a notice that his rent was increasing. He didn't know how he'd manage. May offered to share her apartment. "We'll figure it out," she said. They did, budgeting every cent, cooking together, turning their small space into something that felt like home. Chapter 5: The Other Side. By the end of their second year, they had transformed. Not into Canadians, exactly, but into stronger versions of themselves. They celebrated Lunar New Year together, fasted with Amir during Ramadan, danced to Afrobeats in Daniel's cramped room. They still struggled. But now, they did it together. Graduation came with mixed emotions. Joy, pride, fear. Would they find jobs? Would they be allowed to stay? Amir got an internship in Calgary. May was accepted into a master's program in Vancouver. Daniel found work in a tech startup in Toronto. They hugged goodbye at Union Station, promising to visit, to stay in touch, to never forget. Epilogue: A Place in the Snow. Years later, they met again, this time in Ottawa, at a conference for immigrant professionals. They laughed about the past, about the cold that once froze their toes, about the long nights of doubt and fear. Canada was still imperfect, but it was now theirs too, earned, piece by piece, through every shared meal, every silent tear, every hard-won smile. And under the maple trees, in the shadow of Parliament Hill, they stood, not just as international students, but as citizens of a new story they wrote together.